wide belt sander is very similar to the planer that you just used. However, this one uses a big sanding belt that is actually 37 inches wide rather than a cutting head like the planer has. A sander cannot remove as much material as the planer because it is only sanding it off instead of knives cutting it off. So the maximum amount of material we remove in the sander is 1/64th of an inch, which is actually kind of a big cut for a sander too. So I even go down to 1/100th of an inch usually when I'm running through the sanding. But the way it works is inside here we've got that great big sanding belt that is spinning this direction towards you. In front of it there's a pressure roller, and in back of it there's a pressure roller. Then this rubber belt right here, we turn it on and it feeds through. So your board goes through, the sander sands it, comes out clean on the other side. And the purpose of the sander is to remove those mill marks, the marks left from the knives cutting on the planer. Now we don't always have to sand our boards through here right after we go to the planer. Because oftentimes we're going to then be doing other processes with our boards, combine them into, say for instance, a panel door, like the front of the nightstand has on it. Then once the panel door is all together, we'll send the whole door through here. So we don't always come here right after planing and sand every board, but sometimes it may be necessary depending on your project. For this shelf you're doing, we will go ahead and run them through here just to clean them up so you can see how to use it and have that board ready. You want to make sure your hands don't extend beyond the front of the infeed table here. And you'll notice also here a couple little warning signs. This warning sign is telling you that you don't want to stand directly behind your material as it runs through. That's the same for the surface cleaner as well. Because if it were to come loose and shoot out of there, you don't want to strike you. So stand a little to either side of your material as you feed it into the machine. And then also pay attention where your fingers are at so they don't get caught in the pulleys or the belts that are turning around as they're operating. Now, to turn this machine, well, let me back up before I tell you how to turn it on. There is one type of lumber that we do not run through the surface sander, the big wide belt sander here. And that type of lumber is pine. Any guesses why we wouldn't run pine through the sander?
Sap.
Exactly. All that sap that's in the pine board, as it goes through the sander, clogs up that sanding belt really, really fast and actually renders it unusable because of all that sap. So if you ever do anything out of pine, just remember we don't use it in the wide belt sander. We don't run it through there. Same with our disc sander and other sanders we have. We don't use pine on them. It just ruins them. Sanding discs or belts, whatever we're using very quickly. So, anyway, back to the machine now. To turn the machine on, we have this section right here. Before we even talk about turning it on, I want you to recognize down here on the bottom right-hand side, this one is an emergency stop button, only for emergencies. We have a corresponding one over here on this side, which is emergency stop. And then on the back sides, there are two from the back side you can push as well. So even though this one's right here on the front and looks like you should shut the machine down with this, please only use it in an emergency. And an emergency would be something such as your shirt sleeve or something gets caught or fingers caught and start to go towards the machine. Obviously you want to shut it down quickly. Or if your board gets turned sideways or something's set wrong and the machine's making weird noises and you need to get it shut down, that's when we'll use the emergency stop, any one of the four. Under normal operation, you'll use the two red buttons here to stop the sanding head from spinning, and the other button stops the feed roller from turning. Now to turn this on, it's a little bit of a process. First, we of course have the control switch here, which turns on, and you see a little green light comes on. Once that's on, we then have to hit the master start button. Then we have the reset brake button right here. It has to be pushed. And then the head will turn on. So if I turn this on, you're going to hear that sanding belt kick on. And then I can turn the feed on as well. You can turn one right on after the other. Doesn't really matter. Or the feed can go on first. Doesn't matter. So here goes the head. See, that's now moving and ready to go. If I turn it off, you can see it takes a while for that to coast to a stop. So if we had an emergency situation, show you once that emergency button, how it shuts it down quicker. It actually has brake pads on it, kind of like your car does on the rotor, those of you who know your automotive stuff, and it clamps onto that rotor. So if we're always using that emergency brake, we're going to wear those brake pads out, and then at some point we won't be able to stop the machine. So that's why we don't continually use it. All right, feeding our boards into the machine, we have to have the thickness set to the proper thickness. So you would of course measure your board, know exactly how thick it is, and we set it just about a 64th is the maximum amount less than what your thickness is. Most of the time we're planing to 13/16, so what I like to do is start right at 13/16 and then work my way down. It's always better to be a little bit thicker opening and work your way up than accidentally setting it too low and creating a problem with the machine. Because it's very easy to misjudge your setting on this and create an issue and have the sanding belt get ruined in the machine, things like that. Now, if you can come around here so you can see this side, right here we have a lift button or switch that we turn. One is open, the other is closed. So open obviously drops the table. Closed means it's raising the table because it's closing that opening there. Now right now it didn't move because I'd shut the machine off already, so I've got to reset it. Now it'll move. So we go open, and that drops the table. Close, of course, raises the table. And right here on this side, by the wheel that spins, there is a thickness gauge, which is in decimal equivalents. So it's 0.946 right now, which is a little bit under an inch, about 15/16. Normally I have that paper here, but I'll get a new one. So if we wanted to set it to 13/16, I would close the table right here until I see that measurement reading 0.812. So we'll go a little bit. And what I like to do is get it close with this, and then I can just turn the handle a little by hand, and I got 0.812, I'm right on. So now that height is set for the proper thickness. Okay, do you have any questions about the sander? How to operate it, run your boards through, anything like that? Alright, so what we're going to do is turn it on, send your board through to clean both faces. You'll start with one face. If it doesn't sand it all the way good in our first pass, we'll raise the table a second time, and we'll keep that same side facing up until it's clean. Maybe we need to do that a third time. Once it's clean, we'll turn it over, raise it again, and we'll clean the second side so that it's done. All right, that completes our wide belt sand.